Welcome to Holistic Business PR, Bite-Size Podcast, the podcast that explores PR news stories and entrepreneurs hitting the headlines, as well as issues of health and wealth in the mad world we find ourselves in. I'm Shelley, the founder and director of Holistic Business PR and Starbind Publishing, and I have worked in communications for over 20 years. You can learn more about the work I do by visiting holisticbusinesspr.com. Remember to join the Holistic Business PR family and subscribe and give us a like. Our channel is available on Rumble, YouTube, Telegram, and Locals. You can also get a free copy of the Holistic Business PR magazine from the website. Just visit our shop. So, in this episode, we take an astrological deep dive and ask the question, is Elon Musk a friend or a foe? This story hit the headlines in late April 2022. The headlines in both the mainstream and independent outlets broke the story about Musk making a bid for Twitter. When the story first broke, we heard that Twitter, the board of Twitter, wasn't happy for this takeover, and it was seen as a hostile takeover, and this takeover was in the balance. But as of the 25th of April, as we can see from this headline here, Elon Musk to acquire Twitter, the story has been confirmed and Musk is indeed making a bid for Twitter. The angle of this story surrounds the issue of free speech. Obviously, free speech is on everybody's mind, as many social media platforms have been censoring big names, small names, all of us. So with the angle of this story surrounding free speech, many of our online social media platforms have basically turned into mouthpieces that push censorship in favor of the government-approved mainstream narrative. So we're finding a lot of the news stories and also the press release itself was featuring Musk as championing free speech and censorship. So Musk here has made a big chess move and says he wants to return Twitter back to a free speech platform and remove censorship. The reaction of the press, of course, at least in the stories that we're seeing, is to throw caution to the wind and warn Musk he will need to follow the law. And that's a very important point, which I'll get back to just very shortly. So, Musk publicly has said that he wants to make Twitter a private company and aims to remove destructive algorithms that shadow ban, harass, and bully individuals and organizations that go against the mainstream narrative. Obviously, Musk has put some big talking points on the table. So the question that all of us have is, will he actually deliver? So again, we see this headline, EU warns Elon Musk that Twitter will still have to obey its new big tech laws. And this was published on the 26th of April, so soon after the news came out about Musk buying Twitter. We see these headlines following very quickly. So the issue of following the law is the villain in this story. It's going to be a big villain. And although Musk may have high hopes to return the land of the free, the EU and other countries have been very quick to note that this will be impossible, just simply impossible because of the new online security bills that are being rushed through within the EU, in the UK. In the EU, they have the Digital Services Act. In the UK, we have the Online Harms Bill. We don't have time to go into these pieces of legislation today, but I will be doing some further podcasts just on that, because these instruments that they're bringing in have huge influences on what we will be able to share as information. So those of us that are working in the information world, in PR, in media, as publishers, as people who have our own channels, it's puts us on dangerous ground. So we'll discuss that in another podcast at a later date. So there's Elon Musk, he's the guy next door. That's the way that we always see him. That's the way the media likes to portray him. And his PR team like to portray him that way as well. You don't really see him fussing about with suits too much. He's a very easygoing looking kind of person, wears regular clothes like we do. We've seen him on Joe Rogan, enjoying a spliff, getting high, and just being himself. As we see with this story, like with this headline we have here, Elon Musk doesn't understand free speech or Twitter at all. It's really setting up a dynamic between Musk and the powers that be. So much of the opposition press is focusing on the fact that Musk doesn't understand free speech and the law. And I can see that how the stories, how the articles are being written and the headlines that are coming out, that this is being drip fed to us for a reason. So I would assume as this story grows, Musk will have to have his wings clipped because he will need to obey the law. So what is all of the fuss for Twitter about? It seems like a lot of fussing going on for a platform that is really struggling, that certainly has been struggling over the last year. I guess you could say Twitter is the global consciousness of social media. It has a specific older demographic and has been a popular platform to share information between journalists and businesses, big businesses, small businesses, big brands. And up until 2021, it was very popular because of the way that it's built. And, you just need to give a couple of sentences and you can share your opinions and a few headlines. And it's a quick way to share information. But of course, since last year in 2021, since the censorship brigade has been clamping down on oppositional voices to any mainstream narrative with all of the things that are going on, in 2022, it has basically ended up at the bottom of the list, which is sad to see. So we can see here in this graph the most popular social networks worldwide as of January 2022, ranked by monthly users, and Facebook at the top, and Twitter all the way down here at the bottom. Facebook is great for social content, for family and friends, sharing pictures, even a few news articles and things like that. But when people are looking for proper news stories and evidence-based types of bits of information, they don't go to Facebook, they go to Twitter because that's where all of the journalists have been. That's where a lot of the PR people are as well, because this has been the chosen platform for sharing information by many professionals for several years now. So let's begin to unravel Elon Musk. This is his sort of a snapshot of his Wikipedia page. We won't go all through it completely, but let's just go through some of the main points of what makes Elon Musk and his biography. So he was born to a Canadian mother and South African father. He, however, moved to the US to attend college, as you do, as normal people do. They go abroad to go to school. Some people do go abroad, yes, they do. Usually people with money tend to go abroad to study. He achieved a dual bachelor's degree in economics and physics. And then in 1995, he moved to California to attend Stanford University, but he didn't actually attend there because he instead ended up co-founding a web software company with his brother. And that startup company was then acquired by Compaq for $307 million, as you do when you create your first new company, your first new startup. You just sell it for like over $307 million. Okay. Very much like the Bill Gates story kind of thing. And in 1999, he co-founded an online bank called X.com, which merged with Confinity. And then in 2000, it became PayPal. And then it was bought by eBay in 2002 for $1.5 billion. So this is when he really starts hitting the £1 billion mark or $1 billion mark. Then in 2002, Musk founded SpaceX, which is an aerospace manufacturer. And then in 2004, he joined electric vehicle manufacturer Tesla, because people think that he created Tesla. Well, Tesla, the company, the motor company, was already in existence, and he just happened to go in there. I take it like he's doing with Twitter, just sort of money walks, and took it over and became its CEO in 2008, and then it was changed to Tesla Inc. In 2015, he co-founded OpenAI, a non-profit research that promotes friendly artificial intelligence. Friendly artificial intelligence. I don't know if it can be friendly, but okay. And in 2016, he co-founded Neuralink, a neurotechnology company focusing on developing brain-computer interfaces. So, I mean, we don't need to keep going through every little detail that he's done in his life, but you can see the progression of his interest in AI, and in aerospace and that kind of technology. And we will go through his astrology just very shortly, but it's really important to see the person, the person that's given to us through the news headlines, through the images that we see, and to put that picture together. And then what we'll do is we'll have a look at his astrology and see what his astrology is telling us. Because we're trying to figure out, is he for real? Is he on our side? Who is this person really? Okay? So, I don't know if you saw this headline or if you're aware, but Elon Musk becomes world's richest person as pandemic death toll breaks records. And this story came out at the beginning of 2021. So I'll just read you a little bit of it. Last week, Tesla and SpaceX founder and CEO Elon Musk surpassed Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos to become the richest human on the planet, with a net worth of $189 billion. Okay, so Musk is no little fish. And to be honest, yes, with all of his business deals and ventures that he juggles, he is officially one of the richest people on earth. At least one of the ones that we can see. There's many of them behind the scenes. He's one of the richest people on earth that we are aware of. And of course, if you didn't know already as well, Musk was named Person of the Year for Time magazine. And this came out at the end of 2021. Okay, so he's had some high-level press attention. He's been put forward in front of the public as a man who is a successful business owner. And by being on the cover of Time magazine, I would pretty much say that it's a nod by the establishment to let us know that he's with them. Yeah? You don't get on the front of Time magazine or promoted as the richest man in the world if you haven't jumped through a certain number of hoops. Right, so let's now look into Elon Musk. We're going to do an astrological deep dive. So the question is this multi-billionaire somehow going to come to our rescue and champion free speech? A given right that all of us in the free world was born with. Let's remember that, okay? So let's see what the astrology says. So this is Elon Musk's chart. It seems to have a good rating, and it seems to be quite in line with some of the events that's happened in his life. So what we have here is he's born on the 28th of June 1971 at 6:30 a.m. So he's of my generation. He's just about a year older than I am. And he was born in Pretoria, South Africa. He's a sun sign Cancer, and at 5 degrees. His moon is in Virgo at 7 degrees. He's a Gemini rising. We'll talk about that in a minute. And his Mercury is in Cancer. His Venus is in Gemini. His Mars, which is very important, is in Aquarius. It's at 20 Aquarius. And Jupiter at 27 Scorpio. Saturn at the 1st degree of Gemini. Uranus in Libra. And Neptune at 0 Sagittarius. So he's got a bit of water with Cancer. He's got a little bit of Earth with Virgo. Of course, his Jupiter's in Scorpio, so that's water as well. And he's got a little bit of air with Gemini, with his ascendant in Gemini, Mars, and Aquarius. So, he's got a well-rounded base for his astrology. So if we really look at his face, your face and your build, your body, your face, says a lot about your astrology. So Musk is a sun sign Cancer, and so he has, a semi-round face. He's got the chubby cheeks. I always find when I look at Elon Musk, his eyes appear quite neutral, almost emotionless. I mean, it's very airy, very hidden. Not deep eyes that seem to be caring. They're just sort of very matter of fact. That's what I have always picked up on him when I look at him, and his eyes do pop out at me. And as I say, I find it to be sort of a detached and empty look. And he is a Gemini rising. He's at the 29th degree of Gemini. It's the very end of Gemini. So he has, a Gemini ascendant elongates the face. So it makes it a bit long. It can give long limbs, very quick movements and speech. So when he's speaking, I find he, sort of start, stop, the way that he speaks. And if you look very closely at him, you can actually see the two faces there. He looks like to me, I can see it. He looks like two different people, which is the Gemini effect. This side, his eyes are a bit wider here. This side, his eyes are more squinty. And he's got that little smirk on his face. That's very Gemini. I'm a Gemini, so I can talk bad about Geminis if I want to. But it's a sort of a cocky smile, a little know-it-all thing that goes on with Geminis, because Geminis do love information, and they're quite quick-witted. You can see he's quite quick-witted, isn't he? He's always ready to say something. And with his Gemini rising at the 29th degree, we call that the critical degree. And so he holds all of that Gemini energy, a little bit of schizophrenia that goes on with Gemini, the 29th degree. Very quick actions, quick thoughts, quick decisions, without really having a lot of depth with everything. And he does seem to have, we can only go by what we see from the outside view with the business interests that he has, but he does run several companies all at once. It's very Gemini-like. He's got Neuralink, Starlink, his interest in AI. So he's juggling a lot at one time. So he's also got his moon in Virgo, and Virgo can be a hard placement because it's very critical. It's never satisfied. It can be great for business because, you look for the detail in everything, and, you try to get everything as clean and precise as possible. So that's nice to have from a business perspective. The moon in Virgo it's a bit relentless. It's always looking for perfection. And I would say that Musk probably never settles for less than perfect with his work. That could be good or bad. It's not a bad aspect to have if you are an entrepreneur, if you are a business person. But then where does that stop? That's the difficulty, is do you know how to switch it off, and just relax? He has his Mars in Aquarius, and, Mars in Aquarius drives him to be a unique trailblazer. Aquarius kind of beats to its own drum, but also it does like the collective, it's cliquey, but it's also the loner. It's both. Mars in Aquarius also drives an interest into science and scientific research, areas of, science and innovation. And so you can see through the activities that Musk does, through the businesses that he owns, that Mars really does come alive. And he is driven by being inventive, by being at the cutting edge of technology. And he gets very deep with his Mars, and we'll talk about this very shortly as we go through his astrology more deeply. But Mars is a big player in his astrology because it is the ruler of his midheaven, his house of profession. And his Venus is in Gemini, so it makes him a bit of a womanizer, very difficult to settle down with one person, stay in committed relationships. I know he's got several children, so he's been putting that Venus in Gemini into action. And then he's got, like, he was with Grimes. He's with Grimes. I'm not really clued up on the whole Grimes thing, if they're together, not together, but they have 2 children, I believe, together. And they seem to be a very eccentric pair. So that's the air quality. It's a bit different. It's a bit out there, very very mental. So both his Mars and Venus are in air signs. Very mental, fast-moving energy. Now, Musk has his Mercury in Cancer. And for me, when I see, when I look at Musk and I see Mercury in Cancer, it reminds me of his the way that he uses it. It's his vision of communication is very strange. So, he's got these companies. He's got Neuralink, which is like the concept is a hive mind that connects us to our personal devices, to home computers, to each other, in our own personal spaces, in our homes. It's very transhuman. So he's using that Cancer energy, which is home and family, blended with Mercury, which is communication. But his vision is he wants to sort of have us all chipped and communicating and linked with each other. It's a very strange way of how his energy is being used as it's in Cancer. But when you put it all together with his chart, you can really see his intrigue in transhumanism. So his mercurial interest in Starlink, it echoes this fascination to link the public through satellite communication, helping us to communicate with each other in our homes and the outside world. And we're always like, well, the internet never goes off. It's always on, It's just part of everything. A little bit of Big Brother there. Well, if we have a look further at his chart, we don't have time to go through every single tiny aspect or item in his chart, but we can just sort of delve a bit deeper into the highlights of kind of what makes Musk tick. Because the point of the podcast today is we're trying to find out, is Musk a friend or a foe? Is he serious about really trying to champion free speech, that kind of thing? Obviously, in the real world, with grown-ups, we know that's not fully true. I think that's a given. But let's see the evidence. Let's see what we can see through the astrology. So as we were pointing out before, He's a Gemini rising at the 29th degree. His sun is in his first house in Cancer. Mercury's close by. So, he likes to talk and he likes to communicate with people. He's very bright and cheery. He comes across as, easygoing. Cancerians are easygoing people. They're very much focused on the home and family, and he is a family man. He's got several kids, so he is using that Cancerian energy. That all looks good. I think for me, what really jumps out at me, and probably other astrologers as well, are these little characters here in this 12th house. He's got his Venus in Gemini, as we said, in the 12th house. And we've got Saturn here in the 12th house, just at the beginning, at 1 degree. And then we've got his midheaven in Aries, which is at the 12th degree. So let's go through this. Why are these little points important? So Musk has his midheaven in Aries, and it's at the 12th degree. And I'll be doing a few more podcasts, doing the astrology of entrepreneurs, business owners, and you'll tend to find a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business owners tend to have either their midheavens, which is the house of career, which is the house of profession, and it's the point of how we interact with the public, in Aries, or they'll have like what we call the Aries degrees. So it's at number 1 or 0. If it's not in Aries, it will be like 1 degree of whatever the sign it's in, holding that Aries energy. Because Aries, in astrology, Aries is the beginning. When we talk about the seasons, March, we have the springtime starts doing the astrology of Aries. So it's the initiator. Aries likes to initiate things. It's very strong. The sun is exalted in Aries. It's very strong in Aries. Most Aries tend to have really good self-esteem. They may not always know how to express it, but they tend to be pretty confident people, have pretty good self-esteem. It's very hard to push an Aries around. So for Musk, he has his midheaven in Aries at the 12th degree. Now, the 12th degree relates to the end of the zodiac. This is Pisces domain, where the tangible becomes intangible. It's hidden and it's murky. It's very hard to see through the fog with Pisces. It's an area where you just don't know where you're going. So I find that interesting. I find it actually quite fascinating that his midheaven is at the 12th degree. And, a lot of the work Musk seems to be really interested in at the moment, when we talk about AI and putting chips in the brain, these are all things that supposedly we haven't done yet. I would say that they have been doing this behind closed doors, but he's going to be the one to bring it out to the public. It's very Piscean, it's blurring the lines between what is real, the physical world, with what is unreal, what is intangible, the computer world, the artificial world, the world of dreams and, creations from our minds. And it's all very watery, it's all very nebulous, it's all very hidden. So when we look at his chart, as I pointed out before, we have Venus here in the 12th house, which is sweet money. It can be, astrology can be very literal. It's sweet money, right? Because Venus is a money planet. And the 12th house it deals with people we don't know or we don't see. It's what is removed from the eye of the outside world. It's when the doors close, what happens on the inside. And when we find planets on the inside, it's very secretive. And so he's got Venus, which is sweet money, hidden behind closed doors, with people we don't know or see. And the 12th house also rules foreigners. And it also rules big institutions. I would say big, powerful, male-dominated institutions. because his Venus makes a really nice trine to his Mars in Aquarius. It's a very tight trine. And his Mars sits in the 8th house of other people's money. And the 8th house is also the house of procreation, sex, birth, death. And with his Mars here, I would say he has some very deep and dark ideas about sexuality, life, money, death. Aquarius is very eccentric and detached. And his North Node is there as well. His future destiny, what he's here to do on this planet, sitting right next to that Mars. And it's connected to the Mars and it's connected to the Venus, which is there in the 12th house. So he's got a huge destiny to fulfill with people that we can't see. I'll put it like that. I think that's the most simplest way to say it. With his Mars in Aquarius, he has a love of science and innovation. But, Aquarius can be very detached. So we have seen reports of monkeys being mistreated in pursuit of innovation with Neuralink. And don't think for a minute that he isn't willing to experiment on humans or use people as guinea pigs, because he would be. He would be. And I'm sure he is. We just aren't hearing about it. Not yet anyway. Or maybe we have. I mean, I'm not huge on Musk and following every move he makes or every piece of PR that's put out. So maybe you can leave me a comment and let me know if there has been discussions about the experimenting going on with humans with chips in the brain. I'm sure there must be stories out there, because he's really gung-ho on getting this out to the public. And that's what he's here to do. He has a square between his moon down here in Virgo and his Saturn. And yeah, moon Virgo is a hard place. Moon is a feminine energy. Saturn is a masculine energy. And it's also the authoritarian, the father figure, or the person who's giving all the rules, making all the rules. And I would say that Musk, his mother and female influences were quite intense. Let's just be honest, I would say mum was a bit severe. He would have been under constant pressure of criticism and nitpicking, because the moon in Virgo is describing the mother, her attributes. She wouldn't have been the easiest person for him to live with. If we look at the money now, Musk was born with Pluto and Jupiter in sextile. So this is his Jupiter here in Scorpio. He loves all the hidden, all the naughty things. I mean, Scorpio is such a deep sign. I mean, it's the sign that rules resources, sex, power, delving deep, it's obsession. you know? Scorpio never does anything halfway. It's all or nothing. So he has a really nice sextile with his Jupiter, Pluto, which is 60 degrees. When Jupiter and Pluto come together, it always brings big money. Jupiter is money. It's a money planet. Pluto is power. And it brings powerful connections and associations. So again, his chart is showing that he's got some powerful people around him. Some powerful people that are willing to put some money on the table to help him achieve whatever he's wanting to achieve and invest in him. And with Jupiter and Scorpio, he gets into the mysterious side of life. It sits next to Neptune. Again, it reinforces the mystical, intangible. He's a deep thinker with his Gemini rising, and with that Mars in Aquarius in the 8th house, he is a very deep thinker, but he's weird, he's different, and he does say, I think he's on record many times, I think he calls himself an alien, doesn't he? He is different, he is very different. He's not like the normal guy who's just thinking about work, go home to the pub, have a drink. That's not where his mind is. He's thinking of other things. So, conclusions. Well, I think it's safe to say that Musk is, I think he's a friend to some, but I think he's a foe. Who he is a friend to is not us. There are people that are around him that he has relationships with that we're not aware of. And he's in a world of money. He's in a world of big money. And that comes with a price. And he may really believe some of the things that he says, like he wants to be a champion for good and help bring free speech. And he probably does believe that. That's the Gemini side. He's got like a couple of personalities there inside of him with his rising sign in Gemini. So there is that part of him that really does believe that. And with Mars and Aquarius, he is willing to go out and be his own person and try different things. But he's got connections. He's got some deep connections that we just don't fully understand. So at the end of the day, his natural interest and love of money, I would say, is his driving force, not people. And as a sun sign Cancer, he doesn't strike me as someone who is going to take on the system when push comes to shove. I think he's always going to be outspoken. He's going to say what he wants to say about taking the jab or being able to be free to say what you want. But is he that person that's going to fight for the public? He'll fight in his own way. I would say, with his Mars and North Node in Aquarius, he likes to flirt with being a rule breaker. Someone who is outspoken, someone who is a maverick, someone who is tied to helping people from the background. So, I think he will revolutionize the way that we interact with one another. He's going to change. He's going to be one of the new people that changes the internet. The internet's going to go. We already know that with when Uranus goes into Gemini. We already know that technology is going to have a complete overhaul, and he'll be one of the people pushing that forward. But there's a lot of if, ands, and buts when it comes to the technology that Musk is playing around with. Some of us see it as and I'm one of them, I see it as I do see it as the mark that we have been told about by many people. And you can see with the way that how forceful censorship is with all of the new legislation coming in to reduce the freedom to speak openly. I feel that some of what he's doing is going to end up being used against us. And he may not necessarily want that to happen, but I don't think he'll be able to stop it either. It's like the Pandora's box. He's very interested in going to Mars and putting rockets up into space. But who's going to be going there? The average person or the elite? So we have to be, I think we have to be down to earth with these things and be truthful. And I will say at the end of the day, there is a shadow elite behind him that is using him. Because that's just how it is. They are there, and at the moment, they are running the architecture of the world. Now, it doesn't mean that that's going to stay that way. We can do another podcast about all of that and, at a later date. But I would expect when it comes to Twitter that I think there'll be some wins, but I think I think at the end of the day, we're going to find out that we're chained. Because all of the news stories are sort of pointing to the fact that, oh, yes, Musk can own Twitter. That's fine for him to have all these grand designs, but he's going to have to play by the rules. And at the end of the day, Musk can't control the rules. So that is my conclusion. I'd be interested to hear what your conclusion is. It's a story that is dividing people. Yeah. I think it's another big chess move, honestly speaking. And if you follow the PR stories and the news headlines, you can see how the press is being manipulated. So, yeah, you can learn more about me at holisticbusinesspr.com. We specialize in publicity, book publishing, ghostwriting, social media, anything to do with communication. So if you're interested and you've got a project in mind, you're an entrepreneur, small business person, medium business person, get in touch, see how we can help you. At the end of the day, you have to be the change you want to see. It starts with us. It doesn't start with anybody else. So don't hand your power over to anyone. It starts with you. It starts with the businesses that you create, with the ideas that you have, that I have, that we all have. We are the power. Until next time, be good to yourself.